Is Tennessee baseball the new Alabama football? Who's going to step up and take on Tyon Evans' role in the backfield this fall? And the fallout from Carnell Tate committing to Ohio State. Plenty, and I mean plenty, to get into today for this Mailbag edition of Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back into it. This is Locked On Vols, your first listen and watch each and every day. I'm Eric Kane, Tuesday show, and it's brought to you by BetOnline. It's got you covered this season with more props and odds and lines than ever before. BetOnline.net, it is where the game starts. All right, like I said in the cold open, we have plenty to discuss today, all right? I'm going to say it up front. A lot of you guys might not like the comments that'll come out of my mouth here on today's show. So those DMs are open. Fan mail @_Kaner @LockedOnVols. It just is what it is. It's the price of admission. But more on that really in segment 2 when we discuss Carnell Tate, who committed to Ohio State. We got the Mailbag edition in segment 1, and then our starter spotlight with Darnell Wright in segment 3 coming up on today's show. But yeah, this is Locked On Vols, available each and every morning when you wake up. It's on YouTube and available wherever you find your podcast. Can't thank you enough for subscribing and following and rating and reviewing and liking and commenting and all that stuff on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts. Trust me, guys, it means a whole lot to me. We'll get into the mailbag first, but we got, again, like I said, tons and tons to get into. We'll go ahead and start with Rolene, and you guys know me in words. They're to be a writer and a broadcaster, I struggle with words sometimes. If I am mispronouncing your name, I sincerely apologize. Rolene is what it looks like. Sub Eric, listener from Idaho. That's freaking awesome. Idaho listener. That's awesome. I'm curious to who will fill in that Tyon Evans role. Do you expect a freshman to step up? Thanks so much. Yeah, I definitely expect a freshman to step up by the name of Justin Williams-Thomas. Now, I thought about Tyon Evans earlier today. Actually, I heard some of the guys on the Eric Kane show discussing Tyon Evans, and it got me thinking about it. Hey, he was a good back. I mean, he really was. He ran so hard. I do think that when he was hurt, he was kind of, how should we say, not energized enough, not motivated enough to try to get back as quickly as he can. And I know I'm not a doctor, so who am I to say that? But I do believe he had a little bit of a durability issue. I do believe that at some points in times his mind wasn't in it. But boy, when he was out there, I mean, he ran hard, and he had a couple of really, really good games for Tennessee. And so obviously he entered the transfer portal. He's at Louisville now. But, like I've kind of spoke on yesterday a little bit with the starter spotlight, Jabari Small, and I've mentioned this a couple of times when we get into position previews more so in the summer, heading into fall camp. I'll say it again. I truly do believe this running back room, it's going to be running back by committee. Okay. It's going to be 1A situation with Jabari Small. And then you're going to look to the likes of Justin Williams-Thomas, who's that highly touted 4-star incoming freshman. Tennessee was able to hold him off of Auburn in the wee hours, heading into early signing day. I'm going to count on him a little bit. Obviously, Jalen Wright, who I've seen up close and personal a couple times this summer, and he looks the part. I mean, he really, really does. I think he's added some really good weight over the summer months and winter months. You're going to have Dylan Sampson, another freshman coming in that was not here for the spring, but is coming in here in the summer months, and he looks the part. Laneith Whitehead is also here. So you've got, a wide variety of running backs, about 5 in that running back room that you can, kind of put out there. And Tennessee played a lot of them last year. So it's going to be running back by committee. Now, are any of those guys talented as Tyon Evans? Justin Williams-Thomas potentially could be, but again, he's a freshman. It's going to take him a while to learn the ropes and to learn the playbook and to learn, as I said yesterday, the bullets flying inside the box. But that would be my answer to that. Really all those guys, but primarily Jalen Wright and Justin Williams-Thomas stepping up to fill that void left by Tyon Evans. We'll move on to Credence. And Credence wants to know, for the next Twitter Tuesday, who will have the bigger impact this season and in the future, James Pierce or Tyree West? Oh, man. That is a great question. Okay, that is one of my – you actually said this to me a couple of days ago. That is one of my favorite questions because now, again, both are true freshmen. Both will have to adapt. Both will need to benefit from the strength and conditioning program inside the SEC, yada, yada. That's lip service. You guys know that. I think James Pierce needs to refine his skills. He's behind the 8 ball because he was not here in spring. Recognize that. He is on campus now, by the way, guys. That is confirmed. Tyree West had a really, really good spring. So In terms of who might make the bigger impact, I'll say as a freshman, Tyree West, because he will be in the rotation, in my opinion. He'll be in there. Now, does that mean he's going to be rushing the quarterback and getting a couple sacks a game? I doubt it, but he will be in the rotation. James Pierce can play this year. I think that, if he comes in and keeps his head on straight and has a good camp, he might have a role. He might see some snaps as well, but, you're primarily going to see Byron Young in that role, Roman Harrison in that role. And then it's going to be a battle for Joshua Josephs, James Pierce, and some of these other guys who can come off the edge. And even Tyler Barron can slip back over there and play a little Leo if you needed to, right? So I think overall in the future, I think James Pierce is set up to have a great career, and he's the perfect body type for what you want in a Leo. At first, I'll say Tyree West, but I mean, both of these guys, if they keep their head on straight and they learn, they adapt, and they continue to get bigger and stronger, I think both of these guys can be really, really good. But I'll say Tyree West for right now, and I will say James Pierce for in the future. But I expect both of those guys to have some type of role here as a freshman. We'll move on now to Ross. Ross wants to know, with regards to the hatred directed at Tennessee baseball, is that what it's like to be Alabama football? That's a good question. I mean, it really is. I mean, everybody hates Alabama football, but I think they hate Alabama football for different reasons. I think everybody hates Alabama football because they aren't Alabama football. I think deep down, Tennessee fans, you hate Alabama football because Tennessee is not what Alabama is, which means winning a national championship every other year, winning the SEC, and Alabama beats Tennessee every single year. Just, right now in that series, that's been the uncomfortable truth, right? It's unfortunate, but that is what it is. I think everybody in college football hates Nick Saban because he's the best, and I think everybody in college football hates Alabama because they aspire to be what Alabama is right now. People hate Tennessee baseball because, number one, you're good, sure, but you're cocky. The bat flips galore, the flipping off flipping off the outfield, running around first base, the all the antics with the fur coat and the daddy hats and the actions at second base. And I have no issue with any of that, right? But I also have no issue with, people taking shots at Tennessee right now because they're not in Omaha. I've seen them all over social media. I know you have as well. It comes with the territory, and that's okay. I think those guys know that, and they're fine with that, right? You play with that flair, you play with that arrogance, you play with that, that mirage, right? And then if you get upset or you get put out early or you don't make the dance, which is unfortunately what happened with Tennessee baseball this year, people will take your shots at you. And I think another big reason too is in this Tennessee's right on the Cups, right? Because I do believe Tennessee's the best baseball team in the country, and obviously it missed out on Omaha. But Tennessee baseball's failed to win a national championship yet. I believe it will under Tony Vitello, just a matter of time. I mean, I truly do. Tony Vitello is that good, developer, recruiter, and all that. Alabama football's won how many under Nick Saban? 6 under Saban, 5 under Saban. Well, 5 or 6, whatever the case may be. That's the key difference. So is Tennessee football or Tennessee baseball Alabama football now? No, it's not. Is that what it feels like to be Alabama? Maybe in terms of hatred, but I do believe it is a different type of hate, if that makes sense. I got a couple more here. Then we'll move on to segment number 2. We'll go to Bruce, and Bruce wants to know, talk to me about our needs. Our football team needs blank to be competitive in each game. Obviously, football 101, you need to win the turnover battle. You need to be able to rush the passer. Tennessee needs to be able to rush the passer more from a 4-man front so you don't have to send blitzers for the second, third layer. Because when you do that, it's all tied in, guys. When you do that, it puts the back end playing man coverage, and Tennessee's secondary, Tennessee's cornerbacks are not good to go in man coverage for a lot of times throughout the game. I mean, that's just simply put, they're not right now. So, excuse me, being able to rush the passer from a 4-man front is imperative for Tennessee, in my opinion. So I think that would be the biggest need. But win the turnover battle, obviously, don't turn the football over. You need depth. That's huge. And Tennessee still lacks for depth right now. But, I think it's a little bit better heading into this season. And that will continue to get better in years and years as it progresses. Also, it seems we are getting good offensive players. What about defense? Who are some guys Tennessee is in on the defensive side of the football? Well, Christian Conyer, Tennessee's number 1 quarterback prospect from Bowling Green, Kentucky. He is set to make his decision announcement on July the 3rd. It's been Tennessee and Kentucky battle for as long as I can remember. He was just at Kentucky, and a lot of people are coming out now saying Kentucky might be that leader. I would still say Tennessee as of the time of this recording, but things can always change. We saw that with Carnell Tate, right? Tennessee will get the last word. Tennessee will have him in officially this weekend for Christian Conyer, a guy that has loved Tennessee and Tennessee's been in good standing with for the past calendar year. So Christian Conyer is number one on the board at cornerback. He's set to make his decision on July the 3rd. And then Jalen Smith, who I believe came out and said he's going to make his decision on July the 8th. A linebacker from Grayson, Georgia. He was here on an official visit last weekend or 2 weekends ago. And Tennessee's in really good standing with him, in my opinion. Other guys to keep an eye out on, edge rushers, Rico Walker. Tennessee's still in good standing with him, and Shadavion Bradley. But those two guys are coveted by a whole lot of other schools around the country. But Tennessee's in a spot that are definitely in the running there. And then finally, we will go to the Facebook page. You guys can also send me questions via Facebook, my Facebook page at Caner on Air each and every day. And this is from Connor. Connor says, which carries more weight for you, a baseball plus basketball win or a football win for you against one school in the given year? Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, etc. Okay, so what he's asking here, and I made sure to ask him to make sure that I understood correctly. He is asking which one means more, a football win over a school or a football loss to said school, but you beat them in basketball and baseball. Now, some of you guys may disagree with me right now, and that's fair because Tennessee basketball is a contender every single year with Rick Barnes. Tennessee baseball, hell, it was the number one team in the country this year. But I'm still going to go football. Nothing gets the fan base riled up and energized more than Tennessee football. You talk about beating Florida. One of the schools you mentioned here was Florida. Tennessee's beaten Florida once in the past 15, 16 years. Beat Florida. I mean, absolutely no contest. Football win over Florida is huge. A football win over Georgia, the reigning national champions. Georgia's had Tennessee's number the past couple of years as well. Last win over Georgia was back in 2016. That would mean an awful lot. Alabama, enough said. Ole Miss, sure, it's Lane Kiffin. That'd be a big one, absolutely. So, I mean, regardless, you go down the line here. Maybe, no, I was going to say maybe Kentucky because of Kentucky basketball, but no, you don't lose to Kentucky and Tennessee football, right? And Mark Stoops has turned that program into a really, really good program. So any way you want to spin it, and I understand Tennessee baseball is great. And I understand Tennessee basketball is good. And we're talking ranked in the top 25, ranked number ones at points and times the past couple of years, both of those programs. But nothing hits like Tennessee football. For this fan base, for this market, for the ratings on this Locked On Vols show, nothing hits like Tennessee football. I'm a football guy through and through. I love baseball, but I'm a football guy, right? So 100% I would say it is football, but that is a really, really good question, Connor. I appreciate it. That'll do it here for the Mailbag edition of this show. Coming up, Carnell Tate commits to Ohio State. The fallout. Let's have a tough discussion coming up when we return here on Vols. Your number one source for all your sports betting needs and sports information. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline.net is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, reality television, and a whole lot more. And at BetOnline.net, it still remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, news this season. Well, I'll disagree. I think Locked On is where you find the best podcast, but great podcast over there at BetOnline, a proud sponsor of Locked On Vols. BetOnline.net, the fastest and easiest way to check on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. So right now, you can head on over to the website today or use that mobile device to learn about all the latest trends and all the action. BetOnline.net, it is where the game starts. One live NBA draft show is not enough here at Locked On Vols. The entire NBA channel is going live on NBA Draft Night. So if you have a favorite NBA team and you want to make sure to subscribe now to their Locked On YouTube channel so you can get notified when they go live on NBA Draft Night. NBA Draft Show right here on Locked On Podcast Network, as of course the NBA Draft is getting ever so closer. All right, welcome back into Locked On Vols segment 2 here on a Tuesday show. Carnell Tate commits to Ohio State. 5-star wide receiver Carnell Tate, top 5 player in the country, number 1 player at his position. We've talked about him a lot on this show. In fact, I think on last week's Twitter Tuesday show, we had a question about Carnell Tate, and at the time, I believe I answered. I thought Tennessee was still sitting in the pole position there, but I think I always come with that. I mean, I've been doing recruiting long enough that I always come with, but things can change. Disclaimer: things can change in a hurry. That's recruiting. Now, Carnell Tate has always loved Ohio State. It's not like Ohio State came out of absolutely thin air, right? They didn't come out of nowhere. Like, Ohio State's been there from the get-go. Notre Dame has been there, but this was a Tennessee-Ohio State battle. Carnell Tate value the coaching staff here at Tennessee, value the development and guys like what they saw in Cedric Tillman, wanted to come here and play with Nico Iamaleava, right? Had a great relationship with Nico, had a great relationship with Josh Heupel. Came in a couple times, not once, a couple of times this past spring and early into the summer, and really gave Tennessee a shot. But Ohio State's Ohio State. Let's be real here right now. Look at the talent that Ohio State has churned out at the wide receiver position. Look at who is coaching those wide receivers right now, being a former NFL 10-year veteran plus in Brian Hartline. It just kind of is what it is. And point remains, I mean, look what Ohio State is right now as a program contending for college football playoffs each and every year. And look where Tennessee is right now, still on the up and up. Now, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to paint a picture here. I'm just trying to show you why it's not just like Carnell Tate left Tennessee, on the dance floor, right? It's not like, with a glass slipper here. Ohio State's been in this, and Ohio State is obviously very appealing for a talented wide receiver who wants to win in college and who wants to go on and play in the NFL. So Carnell Tate choosing Ohio State is not a shock to me. He's gone quiet the last couple of weeks. He's gone quiet to Tennessee's side. He's gone quiet to Tennessee media, gone quiet to Tennessee's coaches a little bit. Not as much. I mean, he was still, having some dialogue there, but went quiet with the national guys. Obviously, I saw some stories up there as soon as he committed, so would not have shocked me. I know how recruiting works, that, trying to keep it as quiet as he possibly could until probably late last night, early this morning, probably alerted, some media members so they could have some stories ready. But at 1 o'clock Eastern time on Monday afternoon, Carnell Tate committed to Ohio State over the University of Tennessee. That's a big loss, right? Tennessee was in this one. Tennessee was very, very much in this one. In fact, Tennessee was leading for the duration, for the majority of his recruitment. Truly, truly was. I promise you that. But this is recruiting. Again, a phrase I said earlier in the show. It's the price of admission. If you want to follow recruiting, if you're new to following recruiting, this is normal, right? You are not going to get every single prospect. You are not going to get every single player. And I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. I know it hurts. And I know what he could mean for this offense and what he could mean paired up with Nico. I understand that. And I'm not faulting any of you guys for hurting right now. But the point remains, this is recruiting. We see this a couple of times every single year. So Carnell Tate commits to Ohio State. Even if Carnell Tate committed to Tennessee yesterday, Carnell Tate would have been sought after by Ohio State up until the very end. Tennessee would have to sweat it out trying to keep Carnell Tate from going to Ohio State. That's how recruiting works, right? So again, I'm not trying to speak at anyone right now. And though what I'm about to say, some of you guys listening and watching may have been some of these very people I'm about to talk about right now. No hard feelings if you are. I'm not speaking at anyone. I'm in no position to do that. But there's a small minority, just as in every loss or every coaching decision or whatever, that just likes to go crazy. The world is falling, right? I mean, the sky is falling. The world is ending. Tennessee didn't get Carnell Tate. What's going on? This coaching staff, it's always been, the bugaboo has always been, can it recruit? What's going on right now? All the momentum that Tennessee had Memorial Day weekend, where's that gone to? This class is not going to finish in the top 15. A couple of those phrases I just spatted out right there are coming from one of my friends who I actually had drinks with last week. Good guy. We text just about every day. Huge Tennessee fan. And I'm texting him. I'm not going to say his name. We protect aliases here on Locked On Vols, but he listens to the show, and I appreciate him. But we were texting back and forth yesterday, and he's just saying this and saying that and yada yada. And I'm just like, dude, chill, man. Like, don't forget, this staff did get a 5-star quarterback in Nico Iamaleava. All right. When's the last time that's happened? How soon you forget? And just like in football, you're only as good as your last win. I recognize that. And in recruiting, you're only as good as your last commit. I understand that. And I'm certainly not trying to cover up for a coaching staff, but I mean, let's pump the brakes just a little bit, guys. Whoever, guys and gals who might be outraged at the fact that Carnell Tate didn't choose Tennessee. Let's calm down. I'm saying that this staff can't close. This staff, this staff is not getting it done. This staff, all the momentum with guys like Bryson Sanders, who went to Ole Miss, Carnell Tate, who's going to Ohio State, Hunter Osborne, who claims Clemson to be his leader, Christian Conyer, who is now getting a lot of thoughts towards Kentucky now, more so than this past weekend. Tennessee will have the last laugh there this upcoming weekend. Tamarian Parker, who left Tennessee on Memorial Day weekend, saying Tennessee is probably his leader right now. Now, feeling Florida a lot right now. Francis Mauiola, who was crystal balled by a 247 site that has him going to Southern Cal. I understand all that, but guys, all that is recruiting. it's recruiting. But, the minority that I'm talking about here, some of these fans, trying to attack this coaching staff. Do you guys not remember on December 15th or whatever day one of the early signing period was when this Tennessee staff secured James Pierce, when this Tennessee staff secured Justin Williams-Thomas? I promise you that. Justin Williams-Thomas, Auburn was coming. Auburn was beating down that door, and Auburn was close. I promise you that. Auburn was close to stealing away Justin Williams-Thomas. I promise you that. But Tennessee held on to him. James Pierce, Justin Williams-Thomas, Tyree West. Do we not remember that trio on National Signing Day that Tennessee secured, propelled Tennessee into a top 10 ranking for the class of 2021? When I thought 2021 was a wasted year, I'm going to be completely honest with you, or 2022, 2022. I thought that was a wasted year, 100%, because that was Heupel's first year when he got hired at the end of January. How soon we forget, guys. It's always baffling, and you knew it was going to be the case. We all knew that Carnell Tate was likely not going to choose the orange on Monday because, again, we've kind of been saying all this to cover recruiting from a Tennessee side of things. We've been saying, hey, he's gone quiet. Hey, we don't have a feel for this. Hey, we really don't know. But, hey, kind of feeling Ohio State right now. So we knew it was going to happen. We didn't know for sure. I had a story written just in case. But, and typically when Tennessee gets a commit, we know about it. Okay, we're ready to roll, right? But we didn't know about Carnell Tate. So, we had one just in case, but he chose Ohio State. So I guess the moral of this story here is this is recruiting. Okay. Don't live and die on every single recruit. Just like in football, don't live and die on every single play. There's going to be another play coming up just in a moment. There will be another prospect coming up in just a moment. Hey, Justin Williams-Thomas, Caleb Webb, James Pierce, did any of us, and you're lying if you say you did, you're lying if you say you did any of us know who those guys were this time last year? No. Justin Williams-Thomas, one of the biggest additions to this class. James Pierce, I keep mentioning those two guys because they are two of the biggest additions to that class that just signed. And Caleb Webb, I think, is going to be a really good receiver here. No one knew who those guys were this time last year. New names will emerge. Losing Carnell Tate to Ohio State, I say losing. Tennessee never had him, but Tennessee was in a great spot for him. Does that suck? It absolutely sucks. Carnell Tate's a great player. I think he and Nico would have been really, really good here. But again, it's the price of admission, baby. It's recruiting. If you're new to recruiting, you want to follow it, I encourage you to do so. Read my work, please. Read my co-workers' work. It's fun. I mean, but this is recruiting. You're to get every single player. People saying, what's wrong with Spire? What's wrong with Spire? What's going on? Like there's an unlimited amount of money out there, right? Guys, Tennessee's class right now. And my buddy says Tennessee won't even finish with the top 15 class. Whoa, are you kidding me? Absolutely finish with the top 15 class, I promise. Tennessee, a good month of recruiting in July. I promise you guys. Will Tennessee miss out on another target? Cycle's over? Absolutely. That is recruiting. 100% that will happen. I promise you. Tennessee will be okay. Tennessee got a 5-star quarterback in Nico Iamaleava. This class is going to be okay. I promise you. So, if you were outraged, if you lost your head there for a little bit on Monday, if the whole world was falling for you, I promise you, as our girl Annie would say, the sun will come out tomorrow. I promise. All right. So golly, man, like I understand, like it's frustrating and it sucks, right? He's a great player, but like it's not the end of the world. I kept seeing outrage upon outrage upon outrage. It's like, good grief, just settle down, pump the brakes, settle down. It's okay. It's all right. But a reason why this fan base is the absolute best is the passion, and you can't fault the passion there. Love the passion. So anyway, just my thoughts. I hope no one's thinking I'm trying to speak at you because I'm not. If you were a part of that, minority out there losing their mind on social and the message boards, not trying to speak at you, just trying to talk. But again, the majority of you guys did not and just are bystanders like all of us. So just wanted to get a couple of those things off there. But we'll see what Carnell Tate does at Ohio State. He's going to be a good receiver, no doubt about it. But Tennessee will go and recruit another one. I promise you that. All right. Last thing here on a Tuesday show, we will conclude with a starter spotlight. Darnell Wright. All right. We got just a couple minutes left. This is actually going to be a little short and sweet segment here because we went long in the first two segments. I kind of got on a tangent there in the last segment. Is what it is. Mailbag question segment 1. So we're running a little behind here. It's going to be short and sweet. We don't need a whole lot of time to talk about our next starter spotlight. It's going to be Darnell Wright on the offensive line. We've gone from receiver outside receiver slot. We've gone tight end. We've gone running back. Now we're hitting the offensive line. Again, this is not a position preview. This is just a starter spotlight, meaning we're just going to graze over each position with who I project to win that starting job. When we get to the other side of the offensive line, at the other offensive tackle, it's going to be confusing because there are 3 guys in there contending for that starting job, but I got a couple of days to think about that, right? So here we go. Darnell Wright. Let's be completely honest, guys. Darnell Wright was a big-time disappointment prior to last season. Former 5-star by by a couple different outlets, 4-star, I think at the time by Rivals, but a really, really nice player that came in for the class of 2021, I believe, or was it the class of 2020? Nonetheless, really, really good player out of high school, out of West Virginia. Comes in, was not here for the spring, but comes in because Tennessee had such a depth issue on the offensive line. He and Wanya Moore started from day one. And a lot of times that can crush some freshmen. And I don't believe Tennessee got good football out of Darnell Wright. Truly, the first 2 years he was here on campus. But last year that changed. Maybe it's because he's an upperclassman. Maybe it's because he just needed to kind of get his bearings under him. Maybe it was a coaching change with Glenn Ellerby coming in instead of Will Friend. Whatever it was, Darnell Wright played some really, really good football last year. In fact, he moved from right tackle last year to left tackle, which is a much harder position to play because, number one, anytime you move from one side of the line to the other, you got to switch up everything, your stance, your punch, your jabs, all that type of stuff. But also left tackle is your blind spot. You're protecting the quarterback's blind spot. You got to put your most trusted and your best pass blocker who's got long, lengthy arms and good base in his feet to run the edge here, to run the circle. You got to put him over there to protect your quarterback's blind spot. Darnell Wright moved over there and did just that, and he did a heck of a job. He really, really did. So, coming out of last year, sure, I mean, was he perfect? Absolutely not. It wasn't perfect, but he had a really, really solid year. This year, Tennessee believes they can move him back to his more natural position at right tackle and have one of these new guys step up because they have enough belief in them to play that left tackle spot. We'll see. Spring was all about deciding if they had a guy who could play left tackle. That way they can always move Darnell Wright back to start camp. So we'll have to get eyes on that in camp to see exactly what it looks like. But Darnell Wright is Tennessee's most talented offensive lineman for sure. He's lengthy. He's got a good base. He's dropped a lot of weight. One of the media availabilities during the spring, he came out and said, hey, when I came in this time last year, so it was at the time like when the semester was turning over, so around February, March, January-ish, beginning of last spring, said he weighed like 350 pounds, 360 pounds, and he's dropped all that weight, getting down to like 320. And, he looked a lot better. He was quicker. He was slimmer. His feet looked a whole lot better. But this is a guy that can play in the NFL. And we spoke on this on the VolQuest podcast here on a Tuesday as well. If Tennessee has any hopes of being anybody being drafted in the first round, either this year or next year, I truly do believe it would be Darnell Wright. I mean, I say this with no disrespect, okay? So don't hear me wrong. If you follow how the NFL drafts work and what they look in a quarterback, what they look in the intangibles and stuff, Hendon Hooker doesn't fit the bill of a first-round quarterback. Cedric Tillman, maybe, but he's got speed issues. He's not the fastest. I mean, who else would be a quote-unquote first-round pick? Because, it's Darnell Wright if there's going to be anybody, right? So, he's already been lauded by CBS Sports as potentially the way too early mock draft. I think the one I said on the show a couple months ago was 23rd overall to the Colts. Now, we'll see if any of that plays out. He's got to go out there and perform, but he's got pretty much everything you want. His play last year was very welcoming. He played extremely good football, and he'll need to play good football again this year because Tennessee, as good as it was offensively last year, it still lacked protecting the quarterback at points in times. You got to be able to protect Hendon Hooker a lot more. Gave up way too many sacks, and having a good Darnell Wright anchoring one side, if it's either right or left, is going to help out with that a lot. So, the best, most talented offensive lineman, and probably the one that's played the best here lately, is Darnell Wright. The most important one might be the center, Cooper Mays, and we'll talk about that here in a couple of days. But Darnell Wright's a guy that you want on your team and has really come a long way after truly underperforming as a 5-star freshman and sophomore in his first 2 years. Played well last year, and I'm expecting him to play even better here in the year of 2022. All right, that's all the time we have today. We took your questions for the mailbag. Thank you guys so much for submitting those. We talked about the outrage of Carnell Tate choosing Ohio State over Tennessee, and we shined our starter spotlight on Darnell Wright here today. That will be all for today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. The first picks of the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft have been made. Now you can search for the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft and get over 50 insiders, the Odyssey Sports experts, the draft experts of Locked On NBA Big Board. The 5-episode Ultimate NBA Mock Draft is underway, so make sure the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft, your second listen, right behind Locked On Balls, which is your first listen each and every day. Guys, thank you so much. Couldn't do it without you. You guys rock, and we'll rock again tomorrow on a Wednesday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, everybody.